Howdy. Let's talk about making tough decisions. There are a lot of people who end up needing to make a decision on something. And when you're in leadership, it can be tougher because it can't be personal. It's going to affect more than just yourself, but you still have to be willing to make that decision. Now, I'm going to start off with something that's a little bit more personal. When my mother got hurt back in January of this year, my wife and I had to make a decision, and we had to make it quick. We'd been told by the hospital my mother could no longer live by herself, and we just didn't know what to do. And we were getting ready to try to put her in an assisted living facility that, in retrospect, would have been the worst move ever. We just had no idea, but we were so caught off guard. And in one of those inspirational moments during the night of all things, my wife and I both had the same thought independently. We had to move mom in with us. There really was no other option, and it's turned out to be the right thing. Hasn't always been easy because let's look at me. I'm an only child. My mother was an only child. Have no kids. I've never raised anybody. My wife and I both worked independently, so sometimes we were both out of town, or one of us was in town, one of us was out of town. So we lived pretty independently. Never had a pet. I mean, I had one when I was a kid for a couple of years, but in general, never had a pet. No, nothing. We could just pretty much come and go as we pleased. Well, all of that has changed, and it was just one of those things where we thought about it and we ended up having to make a tough decision. And it's been that period of adjustment, but I'm kind of cool with it now. Having said that, there are tougher decisions that people have had to make in history. And I want to relate this to World War II. Let's go back to 1945. Anyone here remember that? Okay, I wasn't alive, and most of you probably weren't either. But let's think about two very tough decisions that actually centered around the exact same thing, which was the dropping of the atomic bomb. Harry Truman basically ended up in office because Franklin Delano Roosevelt passed away. So he had to get up to speed really quick on this atomic bomb thing. He really had been kept out of the loop. Unfortunately, I don't know if it really changes anything these days or if anything is any different. But back then, vice presidents weren't always kept in the loop of things. So Harry Truman really didn't know a lot about what the atomic bomb was until he was made president. And he had conflicting opinions. Some thought, you need to hurry up and use this. And you had some others who said, please, never use this. And that was mainly the scientific community. And they had to weigh everything really tough. And Harry Truman said, you know what? We got to make this decision. The Japanese are never going to stop. They want to fight to the death. Let's show them what we got. And so they dropped the two atomic bombs. Now, here's the other side of that. I mean, that was a tough decision. Here's the other side. The other side is that we had Emperor Hirohito, who had basically been kind of a prop. He was kind of a false guy. He was in charge, but he wasn't in charge. It was the military leaders who were making all the decisions. He didn't want to invade anyone, but he was propped up as kind of a god. So now imagine this. You're propped up as the god. You got everyone else making all these decisions. You're just kind of going along with it. And then you've had two nuclear weapons, or atomic weapons, I should say, dropped on your country. There were some leaders who still wanted to fight to the end. They said we can lose our entire population and just fight to the end. And finally, the emperor basically found his big boy pants and said, no, this has to stop. We cannot basically wipe out our civilization against a weapon like this. And we've got the world against us. I mean, the Germans had already surrendered. Italy had already surrendered. So basically you had the entire world that could have gone after Japan. And Emperor Hirohito had to make this very big decision, and he did it. A lot of us don't have to make life or death decisions every single day, and that's a lucky thing. We all end up having to make tough decisions or needing to make tough decisions. I know a lot of people who have decisions they need to make and they don't make it. They just want to sit around and wait and see. Okay, maybe this will fix itself. Things almost never fix themselves. Something happens, they usually will get worse instead of fixing themselves. And it's better if there's that really tough decision for you or me or us or whomever to basically make the decision, live with your decision, evaluate your decision later on. If it turned out to be the wrong decision, at least you made a decision. That's what leaders do. That's what people who are put in a leadership position for whatever reason does. You have to be willing to make a tough decision. Like I said, we're lucky that every day is not life and death. So if it's not life and death, a tough decision with enough information, with enough thought, is usually going to end up being the right decision. But that's my thought on it. What's your thought on it? Are you willing to make tough decisions? Are you willing to put in the work so that even if it's a tough decision, you pretty much feel like it's the right decision? Let me know your thoughts. Mitch Mitchell talking about leadership today. Y'all take care. Enjoy your week.